All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome. Welcome back to many of you. Welcome to those of you who are first-time watchers of Ask the King, my long-running Q&A show that I've pretty much done almost since the very beginning of my presence on YouTube. I believe at first it kind of started off as like a joke, and then I started doing it as a serious show a couple years into my YouTube, career. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first episode of Ask the King in over 2 months. The last one I did was in early July. It was purposely spaced out like this for various reasons. I knew that I was going to be busy with different projects and stuff going on, and that I was not going to be able to fully do an episode of Ask the King until about the end of September, which incidentally is today. It's September 29th, 2016. So welcome to those of you who are here watching right here on the King of Hate Vlogs, right? So here's the deal. Since it's been a while since I did an episode, let me explain the premise of Ask the King. You ask questions, I answer them. Pretty simple, right? There's various ways that you could submit your questions, either on the kingofhate.com forums. That's my website where I have forums for Ask the King and posting up and talking about my content and just general discussion and other stuff. And people have been posting questions for the past 3 freaking months, okay? So I had a wealth of questions to draw upon for this episode, thanks to those who did post up. All right, I appreciate that. Also, the day of, like today, earlier today on Twitter, at They Call Me DSP, which you can see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I posted up that I was accepting Twitter questions, which I did for a bit. So some of those questions will be answered on the show as well. If you want to be guaranteed to get your question answered, if you pledge $20 or more, I'm pointing to the bottom left-hand corner of the screen now, to my Patreon, you could get your questions answered guaranteed. There's actually a thread on the forums that only patrons can see. And incidentally, since it's been so long since I've done an episode of Ask the King, there's about, I'd say probably about a page and a half of questions just from patrons. Luckily, though, those questions are pretty good ones, all right? So, those are the 3 methods by which you can get your questions answered. FYI, I've already created a thread on the kingofhate.com forums for the next episode of Ask the King, which is scheduled for Thanksgiving Day 2016. If you're not aware, that's November 24th, 2016, a Thursday, much like today. I almost always do an episode of Ask the King on Thanksgiving. It'll be the Thanksgiving special. I'll probably talk a little bit about giving thanks about the great year that I've had this year, which, by the way, in my opinion, a much better year than last year, that's for sure. So there you have it. All right. Now, without further ado, I don't want to delay too long. It's been such a long time since I did an episode of Ask the King. There's tons of great questions we're going to be getting into. FYI, I split the show up into more digestible portions rather than doing like a 3-hour video. Usually I do it in half an hour to 45-minute portions. So I will be keeping my eye on my clock over here, and when I hit around 30 to 40 minutes, I'll cut it and then I'll do other parts. So this could be a 3-parter, it could be a 4-parter. It all depends on how long I take to answer the questions, all right? So let's get started. Rather than dilly-dallying, let's jump right in head first. Our first question, ladies and gentlemen, is from, actually, it's 2 questions. It's a 2-parter, so you know what? I'll read the questions first and then the second question and answer them individually. But both of these questions are from Chaotic Deluge. So the first question he asked is, I quickly wanted to ask something concerning anime. I understand that you've been branching out somewhat in terms of your content and videos, and I, among many others, have enjoyed the extra content immensely. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think lately you've been very more open about enjoying anime. Would you ever consider making a video or 2 speaking about your favorite anime shows or movies? I, for one, would like to know, since in most things I have a similar opinion to yours, and I was wondering if anime is one of them. Listen, I grew up in the 80s and 90s in the United States when anime was it was existing. It was a very niche thing. Like, if you were into anime, you were kind of like the group that wasn't mainstream. You know what I mean? It blew up really, I'd say late 90s and 2000s when anime got super duper popular in the United States, and that's when you started to see all of these different anime shows in flux, and you had things like Adult Swim playing anime at night and stuff like that. Not so much when I was younger, okay? But I certainly wasn't immune to it. Like, the stuff that I did see, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball Z. Those were the things that were on television that were, like, big at the time, that were becoming popular. And I enjoyed them. I did enjoy watching shows like that. As bizarre as they were, like Sailor Moon, right? Doesn't necessarily appeal to a male audience, but it was so different with the art style and the overdramatic way the show was played out. It was just like a silly show, but it was so different that it was like culture shock to see that on American television. You know what I mean? And then growing up, you know, I watched various other things that were made available to us through things like Cartoon Network and Adult Swim and stuff like that. Was I ever a huge, giant fan of anime? Not necessarily. I had friends who were. I would go to their house, they'd have this giant collection on VHS tapes, and then later, I had a friend who had the entire Dragon Ball Z series on VHS tape dubbed. So it wasn't, not dubbed, excuse me, subtitled. So it was in Japanese with American or English subtitles, and it looked terrible. Like you could tell they were bootleg. He probably bought them at like Chinatown Fair out in New York City or something like that. But he loved anime so much. He had the entire series when like on TV in America it was like season 2. They were still fighting Frieza, and he had the entire series on VHS tapes. I do watch anime from time to time. Right now I'm actually watching more than ever before because I'm like, wow, I'm an adult. Anime is easily accessible. And I can actually watch it at my own leisure because I have a few hours every night where I relax. I have some downtime with my girlfriend, Leanna, and we tend to like to talk about the day, but then we watch some anime or some television or whatever, and we've been putting anime into our schedule. Shows like Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. We're watching both of them simultaneously, which is funny because obviously there's spoilers in Dragon Ball Z to the original Dragon Ball. But I never saw the original Dragon Ball. I only saw like the first season. I never saw past it. It's cool for me to be watching it for the first time, and you know, oh, he ran into Korin for the first time, and oh, he's doing this for the first time, and now I'm kind of getting all of that backstory by watching the original Dragon Ball. Yu Yu Hakusho. This was a show that I watched when it was on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim, and then it just like I never saw it to the end, so it's fun to watch that now from start to finish. A Case Closed, which is actually called Detective Conan. Everywhere else in the world, for some reason in the United States, it's called Case Closed. We've watched almost 3 seasons of it. Now, I know it has 18 seasons. It's insane. We're not going to watch that much, but I think there's like 2 or 3 more seasons available, English dubbed, that we're probably going to be checking out. And then outside of that, every once in a while, we'll watch something random. Like we watch Attack on Titan. You know, those first 2 seasons or whatever that are available, the 2 collections. I guess technically it's still 1 season. We also watched, 2 years ago, there was this horror anime series that we got, Another. And we watched that. We really liked that. That was 2 years ago. And we're thinking about maybe getting another one this year, but we're not sure. But that's what I mean. Like, we watch it. Is it like a thing that I've done my whole life? No. In fact, I actually wish that I had watched more anime when I was younger, because it is a big part of culture, pop culture, and a lot of people reference it, and I don't get a lot of the references and stuff. You know, I have games that I've played over the years, right, that have a very anime-like, and a lot of the stuff goes whoop right over my head because I didn't have that kind of reference or that kind of experience when I was younger. Not many of my friends were into that kind of stuff. So really, am I well-versed in anime? No. Like, anything recent, I don't nothing. Everyone talks about, Phil, you watch One Punch Man? Do you watch it? No, I don't know anything about any of this. But it's not to say that eventually I won't be. It's just that right now I'm not. I'm trying to get caught up on the classics. It was funny because we had a friend over last week, and, you know, she was talking about anime, and we were talking about, yeah, we've been watching Dragon Ball. She's like, damn. You're really into the classics, huh? I'm like, classics? This is just like baseline stuff for us. We're trying to get the background before we move on to the modern stuff. You know what I mean? Would I ever do a show about anime? I mean, maybe, but what would it, you know, I would have to watch it first. That's kind of the point I'm making, is I certainly don't have like this big background in it where I think I could be educated and talk, oh, this anime versus this anime or anything like that, okay? Okay, so the other question from Chaotic Deluge. Although I don't recall this question in particular if it's been asked before, but maybe the question or the answer has changed over time as it tends to happen. I understand it may be a difficult question for someone who's played as many games over YouTube as you have, but what would you say is your favorite playthroughs? What have they been over the years? Can you remember? You hear reviews and such from you a lot, but rarely do we get your biased opinion on this kind of thing. The ones that come to mind for someone like me are games like Final Fantasy VI, Link to the Past, or Blue Dragon. You seem to love doing those playthroughs as it directly influenced the overall quality of the content itself. I thought a lot of people would be interested in your own opinion. The bottom line is, I think there's 2 formulas for really entertaining playthroughs for me, for what I do for YouTube. The first would be a game that I know nothing really about. I go in cold. I play it, and for whatever reason, the gameplay style lends itself well to my commentary, and it makes a really fun experience. A few of those over the years, obviously everyone's going to say Heavy Rain, right? A game where it was very light on gameplay. Really, it was just quick time events and doing like dialogue choices and stuff. But because it was that kind of game, it was a lot of commentary, a lot of interaction, and it lent itself to become a great game. Of recent memory, I would say a game like Until Dawn. There was a game, all I knew was like a horror movie simulator. That's all I knew, and I knew that it was going to have some like real actors and celebrities and stuff in it. I knew nothing else about it. That game was great because it really was a horror movie simulator, and I changed the outcome of the game by doing different things. Hilarious, you know what that was like? Watching a horror movie and doing funny commentary over it, which I love doing. Like, I will watch a movie and I could do like live commentary, think like a riff tracks kind of a deal. And I think, you know, I have that kind of improvisational, observational humor to me. That's kind of my style of humor. And so when you get a game like that where, wow, it's a horror movie, now I can comment on all the silly stuff that's happening in this game, then it becomes a classic. And I think a lot of people have said, yeah, your Until Dawn playthrough is a classic because it was something so fun and original and different. The other kind of playthrough that I think lends itself to be something that I really enjoy is a classic game that I've played before. So yeah, I mean, the games that Chaotic Deluge brings up here, Final Fantasy VI, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Blue Dragon, these are all games from my past that I've played and loved. And so that love of those games comes out when I play them on a YouTube playthrough. Now, it's hilarious, though, because the games that he just referenced are some of my least viewed playthroughs ever. I'm not even kidding. If you go look at those, they didn't get a lot of views or attention. In fact, a lot of people complained when I played those games. So why are you playing these games that are old games? You should be playing all the hot new releases. And that's what's sad, is a lot of the games that I enjoy the most and I think actually would turn into the most enjoyable playthroughs are games that don't get a lot of mainstream views or attention. So it's not like I could just sit here and do that. You know what I mean? I would love to. There's been games over the years that I want to still play. Like the Suikoden series, and I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I don't know if it's Suikoden or Suikoden. I've never heard anyone actually pronounce the word before. But I played 1 and 2 when they were new releases. I loved those effing games, man. Like, those games, because there's some grinding aspect, but the story is really robust, and there's a ridiculous amount of characters. I love those 2 games. But those are going to be long, drawn-out JRPG playthroughs, and who would watch them? And that's the sad fact, is a lot of the games that I loved from the past are not... That genre isn't popular anymore. Look at what they've done with modern JRPGs. They don't even have a lot of those aspects anymore in them. So, I don't know, you know, a lot of the games that I want to do, there would be amazing playthroughs, but would they ever... Lost Odyssey. That was a game that I played. This was the year of transition between Street Fighter and going back to console gaming. 2007, 2008. I played Lost Odyssey. It was one of the toughest JRPGs I've ever played, but I persevered and I beat it, and I loved the game, but who would watch me play it, you know? And that's kind of like... Because I do want to eventually do it, but I'd have to find a way to do it and balance it with other stuff in my business that I don't make no money for a fucking month, because those are long games too, you know what I mean? So if you're talking some of the most enjoyable playthroughs, the improvisational ones where there's not a lot of gameplay, or the ones that are beloved games of mine from the past that I really enjoyed playing as like retro playthroughs, okay? Some other things that I really enjoyed, covering new hardware releases. For example, as stupid as they were, playing games on the Microsoft Kinect, the PlayStation Move, the Wii U launch, the PS4 and Xbox One launches were some of the most fun things I ever did, because they were outside the box, they were different, right? It wasn't like I'm just sitting here doing a playthrough. It was more like I'm observing what's happening with this technology and these new things and what the capabilities are, and that's a hell of a lot of fun to do firsthand. And I actually think that one of the things that I'm hoping is going to translate into some really fun coverage for everyone, the PlayStation VR launches in like 2 weeks. I'm not exaggerating. It's about 2 weeks from now. Best Buy will be mailing me, supposedly on release day, the PlayStation VR. And I'm going to get a bunch of the games off of PlayStation Network, and I'm going to be playing this thing. And I don't know how that's going to change. You know, I'm going to have picture-in-picture. I'll have a little webcam here with me with the VR on my head, playing here on the couch like this. I don't know how it's going to go. You know, I really don't. I don't know how it's going to go. But it could be a really fun and unique experience, all right? So that's something that I think you should look forward to. That might be one of the more unique things that I've ever done for YouTube that you might enjoy. So I hope that's a legit answer. I mean, there's so many games I've played for over YouTube over the years. I mean, how could I count? I would need a list in front of me of all the hundreds of full playthroughs that I've done just to pick and choose some of the hilarious things that I've done over the years. Some of the stupidest games like fucking Amazing Frog, right? Turns out to be insanely hilarious. Some of the racing playthroughs that I've done, as frustrating as those games were, to see the hilarious stuff that happened was some of the most fun that I've ever had on YouTube. So, really, it's in the eye of the beholder. It's in the eye of the viewer more than mine. But those are some of my personal picks, the things that I mentioned. All right. Next question is from Last Rambo 341, and he says, Have you ever studied another language throughout your life? If not, would you be interested, and would you ever like to learn Italian, since that seems to be a big part of your heritage? Learning a language is great to broaden your perception of many things and cultures. Well, I studied 2 languages. 2. The first language that I studied was Spanish, and that was all through high school. I had 4 years of Spanish. And the bottom line is, I can't speak it. I've forgotten most of the stuff that I knew about Spanish when it comes to, like, sentence structure and the gender of this noun versus this fucking, I don't know. All right? Been a long time. But when I hear people speak Spanish, a lot of the time I can understand it. So it's funny because there have been people who, like, try to speak Spanish to make so that people don't understand them. And I get it. I understand exactly what they're saying, or at least I can get the gist of what they're saying. Because I remember a lot of the words and phrases and things from when I was studying Spanish. The other language that I studied is a dead language, meaning it's not spoken anymore. Latin. Now, the reason that Latin was a great language to study was because the roots of many modern languages come from Latin. So if you actually look at, like, Italian, Spanish, English, and a lot of other modern languages, they all have their roots in Latin, and you can see words in Latin that have been transformed into words in other languages. So, like, the root of a word, okay, might be the kind of same word in other languages, and you can make that association. So there may be a word in another language I've never heard of before, but because of a phrase or a word in that word, I could tell from its Latin root what the word means. So even though I literally can't say anything whatsoever, all right, in Latin, I've learned a ton about language and the roots of words and stuff from it. For example, one of the things that I always remember, gladius, all right? The word gladius is like gladius, gladius, gladium, all the different versions of the word in Latin. The word means sword or penis. I'm not kidding, sword or penis. So when you say gladiator, it's a guy who fights with a sword, right? He's like a contender, he's a gladiator. But you could also make a reference to penis there, which is pretty funny. Now, how many words actually mean penis that have gladius in them? Not many anymore. But that word, if I ever see gladius or gladiate, I know it has something to do with combat or swords and stuff because I know the root of it. So Latin was actually one of the better languages that I ever studied because it taught me a lot. Not that I can speak a language, but I can learn stuff from other languages, okay? Would I ever study another language? I don't know. Let's be honest here. English is the #1 language in the world when it comes to spoken word. Now, yes, there are a lot of other languages that are used worldwide. I mean, Spanish, they're saying, I think, is #2. And then you've got other major languages, you know, French, and I know there's a couple different Middle Eastern dialects that are quite popular in that area of the world. Obviously, there's, you know, I'm trying to think of the word. Is it Indian, or do they have a name for what's spoken in India? I don't know. I can't remember. And obviously, you've got the different Chinese dialects. You've got Japanese. You've got all the different Asian dialects. How could I even pick one? You know what I mean? Like, and it's not like I'm ever going to be huge on international travel where I need to know another language. So probably at this point in my life, 34 years old, do I plan on learning another language? Probably not. But, you know, having that Latin education, I think it helps me with language, and I'm glad that I actually got that in the past. Okay. The next question is from Atlas Telemon. He asks the following. Does Leanna watch your Ask the King episodes? And if so, do you feel that she actually gets to know you better on certain subjects with the stories that you tell? Or does she probably already know a lot of them? Do you ever get into follow-up conversations after she watches them? Well, I can tell you this, she used to. When we didn't live together, all right, there was that disconnection where, you know, we were dating for years, and we didn't live together. I lived in Connecticut, she lived in Pennsylvania, 2 different states that were like 3+ hours apart in the United States, so we didn't get to see each other in person all the time. So then I know, for example, she would watch a lot of my videos because that would be her way to feel like she has, you know, she has a connection with me when we're not physically together. Not so much anymore, but at the same time, a lot of the times when I'm doing things like Ask the King, she could hear me. You know, her office is across the hallway from mine. It's not like these are thick-ass walls and she can't hear what I'm saying. So a lot of the time she could hear this stuff. Right now, I think she's downstairs actually doing stuff for her soap-making business, but if she were in that office, she probably hears Ask the King anyway. The bottom line is, at this point, probably a lot of the stuff that I talk about in Ask the King, she's heard the stories and stuff before, especially now, you know, we've been living together for 2 years and we talk a lot, so she's heard a lot of the stuff that I have to say about my background and stuff like that. I doubt that any of it's like a shocking surprise to her. But over the years, as I've told stories on Ask the King, yeah, she's always saying, follow, oh, wow, did you tell me about this, this about your high school experience, or this about your college experience, or this about your past, and, of course, talks about previous girlfriends and stuff like that. All that, we've had those conversations. So, at this point, I've been dating her for, what, 4 years? Holy shit. Actually, longer than that. I think 5 years now. Oh, my God. Now she'll kill me because, of course, I don't remember the exact timing. I'm terrible, by the way. I'm terrible with dates. I'm terrible with anniversaries. I'm terrible with birthdays. I am one of the worst people on planet Earth when it comes to that kind of stuff. Because for me, I don't know. I've never been a person who, like, oh, I really need to be all about my own birthday or my own like, even me, half the time I forget it's my own birthday. So, for me, it's like, that's just another day. But I guess a lot of people have a lot of significance when it comes to that stuff. And I'm going to have to get better at it, I guess. But anyway, in the years that we've been together, we've had, a lot of stuff we know about each other now. So at this point, her listening to me doing Ask the King, she's not going to learn too much. You know what I mean? All right, next question. Actually, the next one is 3 questions. All of these are from, wait a minute. Okay, sorry, I split the question, kind of messed up on the paper here. All these questions are from Just On, so 3 questions. And by the way, we're about more than halfway through the Patreon questions. Pretty soon we'll be getting to the forum questions, FYI. So first question from Just On. Have you ever had to let a childhood friend go because your views as an adult have changed and or they don't accept how your life is run as of now? Nope. The bottom line is, I've had like phases in my life, and kind of once I pass a phase in my life, it just becomes my past. So for example, all my childhood friends I haven't talked to since high school. All my high school friends I really haven't talked to since college. My college friends I really haven't talked to since the early 2000s. Then there was a phase in there where there were people who I was hanging out with and doing stuff with, and it's weird. It goes in phases, and for whatever reason it all just ends up kind of getting shoveled into the, not really shoveled and not really swept, but just kind of, it becomes part of the past. I really don't have many, if any, like long time friends who I can say, I knew this person from my youth and, I still hang out with them and now they have a family. There's a few people here and there, but I pretty much lost touch with almost all of them. Hell, I mean, the people who really I talk to the most would be my friends, the Arid Lord and Koru Chado, honestly. Those 2 guys, Koru Chado, who I do co-op with from time to time, in particular Black Ops Zombie stuff. I knew him from the early 2000s, the early days of competitive Street Fighter. He was from the Boston, Massachusetts area, and I was in Connecticut, and we would actually meet each other at tournaments, and we had like a heated rivalry at first where we went back and forth with each other, kind of talking shit and trying to who's the better player. And then after a while, we became allies when it became more like East Coast versus West Coast, and we wanted to prove that we had talent just like the West Coast did in competitive Street Fighter. So then we kind of became allies, and then at one point we all became part of the same competitive fighting game team for a while, and we frequented the same arcades and stuff. And then, now it's funny because now we have nothing to do with competitive Street Fighter, but we still enjoy video games, so we do co-op stuff from time to time. Chris, the Arid Lord, is someone who met me through YouTube and through videos and stuff, but outside of that, we had personal conversations, and we hung out a few times in person at conventions and stuff, and now we do co-op and stuff together. So those are kind of like my current long-standing friends. But it's funny because when you look at the past and you look at the different people at the different phases of life, I don't have like a childhood friend who I really still talk to anymore. And it just happens. People move on. Like me, my life has changed so many times and it's become different phases, you know what I mean? That it would even be hard to have someone like that still in my life, because I went from living in like almost like I don't want to say inner city because it was never that bad, but almost like kind of a lower class neighborhood in Connecticut, to going to like high school where it was a more upper class use and stuff like that, in college. And then after that, I kind of moved into adult life, and it was a completely different thing because I was constantly traveling and doing Street Fighter, so that was a group of friends that I had. But then when I stopped traveling and playing competitive Street Fighter, then I fell into another group of friends, like the YouTube friends, I guess you could call them, with people like John, Rambo, and Howard, and that. And now that's in the past, and now I've moved on to another phase in my life where now I'm on the West Coast, so it just keeps evolving, you know what I mean? So no, the simple answer to the question is no, but I give you the more elaborate answer, I guess. Question 2. Do you get a lot of headaches while you do your job? I know if my job was always to stare at a computer screen or a TV and focus on games and making vlogs and stuff like that, I'd probably start getting migraines like crazy. I'm a gamer and I'm always playing games, but I do find myself getting quite a bit of headache problems on some days. Do you relate to this, and how would you handle it on the daily? Well, first of all, whoa, I almost just knocked my water on the floor. That would have been bad. I actually did when I first started doing this, noticed that I was getting headaches and stuff, because the bottom line was, when I started doing YouTube, I was playing more games than ever before, and I wasn't used to that. Plus, when I started YouTube, I also had an office job where I was staring at a computer screen all day. So it was like, here's my office job, staring at a screen for 8 hours, go home, play games for 3 hours. All I was doing was staring at screens constantly, right? Obviously not the best thing for you. So, there's some things you could do. I actually, in my office, I backed my monitor away from me, okay? I tried to create more distance between the monitor and me. Same thing, like, right now in my office, my television screen is probably, I'd say, over 6 feet away from me. While previously, when I started on YouTube, it was, like, right in my face. So, different, things that you can do. It's always good to take breaks, and that's why a lot of people, when I'm live streaming, I stream 3 to 3.5 hours of gameplay a day, but I'm taking a break or two in there, and people, why is he taking a break? Because you need to. Physically, your body needs to take a break. It shouldn't just be staring at a television. That's why people, a live stream, 8-hour marathon live stream, everyone, come join me, and they don't take a break. It's like, do you realize how bad that fucking is for you, physically, for your body and everything? Like, that's terrible. You shouldn't do that. You should pace yourself. You should have breaks. You should, have hydration. You should have all this around you when you're doing stuff like this. Hydration. A lot of people don't realize this. The number one cause of headaches is not eye strain or anything like that. It's dehydration. Your body doesn't have enough liquids in it. And it causes brain swelling, which causes the headache. So always when I'm gaming, I have a drink next to me, and if I run out, I take a break to go get another one, because if you don't stay hydrated, the bottom line is you could hurt yourself. You're prone to headaches and stuff like that. There's just a few tips. Now, obviously, over the years, what's happened is my body's gotten used to it. Just like everything, the body is a very adjustable, versatile thing. It'll adapt to a lot of situations. So for me, when I first started doing gaming more on the hardcore side for YouTube, yeah, it was like a shock to my body. It wasn't used to it. But as I've done it over the years, my body's more used to looking at computer screens now, and I could do it a lot more easily than I used to. Third and final question from Justin. Here we go. What's your thoughts on the WWE Women's Division? Now that there's all these changes, there's more matches, they're on the pay-per-views, what do you think? That's a good question. A lot of people have asked me a lot recently about WWE, and the bottom line is, I don't do wrestling commentary anymore. I think that was a bygone era for me where, yeah, Smart Guys was this ongoing show. It was co-op commentary with myself and John Rambo. The show worked because it was color commentary. I had one perspective and John a lot of the times had another. A lot of times we agreed and sometimes we didn't, right? That's why the show worked. For me to just sit here and talk by myself about wrestling would probably get pretty boring, right? Just me gabbing about it. But every once in a while I do like to talk, and this is a good opportunity for me to address it. The direction that WWE is going with women's wrestling. It's not divas anymore, right? It's not mud wrestling with a bra and panties match or anything like that anymore. They're taking it more seriously. They're actually training their women to be more professional wrestlers, to actually be good on the mic, to do all these things, all right? Although it's funny because you do see remnants of the old ways with the Bellas. Fucking Nikki Bella's back, and I say she sucks. She was never a good wrestler. She was the bygone era of eye candy, right? The eye candy wrestlers, the Divas era. But they're definitely going in the right direction. You look at Charlotte is the women's champion. You got Becky Lynch on SmackDown as the SmackDown women's champion. Wrestlers like Sasha Banks and Bayley and, these up-and-comers who are really training to be good. And then you see Eva Marie, and you're like, wow, they really don't fucking learn, do they? It's like for every 5 steps forward that they take another 2 steps back. So it's good because they've been making 5 steps forward. And a lot of the changes they've done recently, I think, are very positive ones. But they've still got a ways to go. For example, I get the feeling that a lot of the time, well, I don't get the feeling, I know a lot of the times they just have matches for the sake of having the match rather than actually having any kind of significant build-up or plot line behind it, and that kind of is a waste. A lot of the times there's no culmination. They'll have this big thing going with the women, and then it doesn't really amount to anything, and it just kind of fizzles out. And you're like, well, why did they bother with that? Well, you got us all excited for this rivalry, and then it never really culminated in anything important. So that sucks when that happens. And yeah, they keep having bad endings to a lot of the matches, which sucks too, which always disappoints everyone. But they do that with the male wrestlers too. If anything, let me put it this way. The female division, the women's division in WWE isn't perfect, but it's light years better than what it was just a couple years ago. So at least they've got someone in the company, whether it's Triple H or whoever actually is behind the scenes, who's making this happen. They're doing something good for women. It's about fucking time that women stop being just treated like pieces of fucking meat on wrestling, and they actually get respect and get treated equally with the men, and actually get to have these kind of good matches and promos and programs, and they deserve it. There's no reason why women cannot perform as well as men. For years, there's been these independent things like Shimmer, right? Shimmer, the independent women's wrestling. Amazing. And they're like that, and you go to WWE, and they're fucking still doing the stupid shit divas, and the women can't wrestle, and it's all about looks, and you're like, what are they doing? Like, where did they drop the ball here? So thank God they're at least going in the right direction. Let's hope they can stay that course and it doesn't just degrade into a bunch of mess. There you have it. All right, on to another patron. This one is from Ryuzaki. Actually has two questions. The first question is, I'm wondering if you ever go on like vacation with Leanna, is there any kind of souvenir that you and your girlfriend like to get when you travel? A friend of mine, whenever he travels to a place, he always buys a towel from wherever that is. Really, there's nothing that's like, let me put it this way. There's nothing that's like 100% the thing we always grab. We do like to grab refrigerator magnets, and we have a few of those on our fridge right now from our various trips. Sometimes we like to get cups. Like, we actually have cups from two different Bubba Gump shrimps that we went to. It's a restaurant that's really touristy areas. And we went to two different ones, so we have two different cups from two different areas of the country, which is kind of nice. What we really like to do is take pictures. You know, you go to like a zoo, or you go to a restaurant, or you go to a theme park, and they'll have someone take your picture, and we have this nice frame downstairs of all the pictures of the places that we've been, including Florida, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, you know, those kind of touristy areas. We're hoping next year we can go to California, in which case we'll probably get some nice souvenirs and more pictures and stuff like that too. More on that, obviously, as we get closer to next year and we see how the business does, because we really want to, but obviously, if I can't afford it, we're not going. Second question from Miyazaki. Do you think that the delays of games like Final Fantasy XV, The Last Guardian, South Park, etc. will really make the games better? I'm kind of skeptical, to be honest. Sure, it's better to release a functional game, you know, not like other games that get rushed out and they're not functional at launch. But I find it kind of weird that suddenly many games are getting delayed out of nowhere. Listen, this is actually, I think the reason that it seems like it's something different is because this is a more social media-esque era, where now when you get a game delay, everyone has to voice their opinion on it, right? Everyone makes a vlog on YouTube, everyone is all over Twitter about it, so you kind of see that there's this kind of more interactive aspect when games are getting delayed. The bottom line is this used to happen all the time. Games used to always get delayed last minute. So, most people don't realize this. South Park, The Fractured But Whole, just got delayed, right? So did The Stick of Truth, and look how good that game turned out, right? The Last Guardian has only been delayed about 4 million times and got another delay. Final Fantasy 15, again, has been delayed before and getting a last-minute delay. I think there's a difference here. Because when you get a game like South Park, right, it gets a delay, and then it came out and it was amazing. And you're like, holy shit, right? But when you get games like Final Fantasy 15 and The Last Guardian, games that have been in development for like 10 years, and they're supposed to be released, and all of a sudden they get another delay, but the delay is insignificant. Like, for example, both of those games are a month and a half extra. What can you really do in a month and a half to fix a game? You know what I mean? What that tells me is that something was found that was quintessentially bad about both of those games at the last minute, and they were like, man, if we had a month extra, we could try to fix it. That doesn't give me hope. Honestly, that actually makes me worried about those games, because you had 10-year development cycles, and by the end of the game's development, you couldn't figure out there was going to be, you know, oh, we couldn't get this bug fucking fixed. I don't know. And again, month and a half, it's not like they're changing the game engines. You know what I mean? It's like they're rehauling the graphics. They can't do that in a month and a half. So it must be like little tweaks here and there to fix little annoying bugs and shit. So I don't know how significant those fixes could even be. But with South Park, it's a different situation. I think that the game only is getting this one delay. I think that the game will actually probably be pretty damned much better than than maybe what it would have been. Maybe they did find some bugs or whatever. And by the way, the game delay is longer than the Final Fantasy and Last Guardian. So they could actually do more with it. So it all depends. I mean, let me put it this way. Am I appalled that all of a sudden all these games are getting delayed? No. This always happens. Like I said, it's just that now we're all more aware of it. We have more of an awareness of things going on with stuff like this because of social media, I feel. So No, I'm not like super deterred. I'm not super worried about any of those games, but it is kind of worrisome when it comes to Final Fantasy 15 and Last Guardian that after 10-year development cycles, last minute delays of a month, how much of a help is that going to be, right? All right. Let's actually do the final. This will be the final patron question. And then, you know what? I'll take a quick break. We'll end the video. And on the next video, we'll start off with the forum questions. That'll work out. So this final question is from Brightside Viking. And he says, I have 2 questions. First of all, are you done with your Scarface playthrough? I played Scarface in the month of August as a downtime playthrough. A lot of people actually wanted me to quit the game because it was incredibly frustrating. It was an insane grind, which I didn't expect because the Grand Theft Auto games are nowhere near as much of a grind as that game is. It's a time waster. Keep distributing drugs to raise more fucking funds so you could buy more businesses, then you could get another story mission. What? Why can't I just fucking play the story? You know, like, but again, the game's really old, so I can't really fault it. If you look at sandbox games, they got better over time and they cut out that grinding shit out of them, right? But then what happened was all new releases started coming out. We had 2 weeks of new releases at the end of August. We had all the new stuff in September, and I always told everyone it was a downtime playthrough. It was something that I was going to do when there was nothing else going on. The bottom line is, there's tons of shit going on right now. Like, there's a lot of new stuff for me to be playing that I don't care about Scarface. And the bottom line is I may never get back to it, or I may get back to it. It's not a concern of mine. It's not a major concern. Now, unfortunately, if you have been attending my streams recently, you've probably noticed a bunch of trolls who are coming in there. And, where's Scarface? When's Scarface? When's Scarface? There's not an overabundance of people who want to see Scarface continue. The game wasn't even getting great attendance or views when I was playing it to begin with. The people that want it to continue are people who know that the end of the game is difficult. They want to see me fail and rage at it so they can go off and steal my fucking videos and do stupid montages about it. I don't care about Scarface that much. I would like eventually to maybe finish it, but it's like the last priority thing in my fucking schedule right now. I could give 2 shits about it. I have a lot of new stuff to cover in the next few months. So basically asking me about Scarface is a waste of your time. And at this point, it's just considered a troll move because everyone has the answer publicly. There's no reason to ask again. So, just warning everyone, you come into my stream chat spamming Scarface, 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 you will get Das Boo. Alright. Second part of the question. Do you appreciate the people who try to defend you and or white knight for you? Trying to take your side and things can be a bit troublesome because false accusations most likely come your way all the time. And it does tick some people off. Because no one in their right mind could say anything good about you, right? Irony. You know, so here, let's talk a little bit about this. The bottom line is, by the way, I say the bottom line a lot. It's just a mannerism of mine, okay? I'm taking that back. Not the bottom line. The situation is, that's really what I should say. The situation is that there's a lot of negativity associated with me. At this point, it's just silly negativity. Because a lot of the things that people take issue with me are things from my past. In the past, Phil used to say a lot of racially insensitive things. In the past, Phil used to insult every single game developer in the playthrough and say that they suck and all of this kind of stuff. And the bottom line is, yeah, there are still opportunities that in this modern era, I do say that stuff. But when I say it, I mean it. Meaning I'm not just saying it for comedic effect. If I'm playing a game and there really is a broken part of the game or a game that all of a sudden a difficulty spike and I feel the game's unfair, I'm going to call it out. That's my style of commentary. I've always done it. And people appreciate that. A lot of people tune in just for that, right? But a lot of people see my older playthroughs. You know, we're talking 2011, 2012, when a lot of the times when I played a game, I would literally do this for comedic effect. And they take that as like, well, that's the norm, that's Phil. And they'll just insult me crazily, they'll say silly shit, you know, anything to try to get a rise. And there are a group of people who are fans of mine, who go out of their way to try to defend me, and it depends on the situation. Let me put it this way. If you see some idiot who's spamming the hell out of the comments of a video with something stupid, and you want to respond to that idiot and say, you're an idiot, because that's not true, you know, and here's why, that's a good thing, right? But going after people in a nasty way and attacking them is not what I would consider a way to stick up for me. And I know that there are some people that kind of go out of their way to unfortunately harass people. They do it on the forums, then they take it to social media like Twitter and stuff like that. First of all, I don't condone any of that. I've never asked anyone to do that. I don't do that shit myself, you know? So for anyone to take it upon themselves to take it to that next level, hey, you know, I don't condone that, and you're doing it on your own accord, so, you know, you gotta understand there's consequences for this kind of shit, you know? And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They think that, oh, it's the internet, it's forums and social media. That's not serious stuff, right? Next thing you know, now you're in trouble because of serious shit that you said on social media. Who else reads your Twitter? You know what I mean? You gotta be careful with this kind of stuff. And I don't condone personal attacks against anyone. There's a lot of people who literally make it their main focus in life. Their hobby is to troll me, all right? They've got YouTube channels dedicated to me and stuff like that. Do I like those people? Fuck no. But I wouldn't ask anyone to try to go like attack those people or do harmful things to those people. Just call them out on their bullshit when you can. You know what I mean? And that's the best you can do. What I will say is what I have liked is that people, since I got verified on Twitter about a month ago, it seems that a lot more people are interacting with me on Twitter. They're responding to my tweets. They're sharing stuff with me. They're asking questions that I answer actively. They're retweeting, they're faving, liking my tweets, whatever the hell it's called on there. I don't know because they change it every other day. And that's awesome. I'm getting social media interaction that I never got before. That's the cool kind of positive interaction that you can have with me, right? But no, don't take it upon yourself to have these personal vendettas against someone just because there's some kind of a fucking sicko and they have a channel about me on YouTube. Those people, all you gotta do is look 5 seconds at one of those channels and anyone in their right mind is like, wow, this person's fucked in the head. You don't need to attack them or constantly be talking about them or exposing them or anything like that. White knighting, it's funny because a white knight, the actual meaning of the term, is someone who went out of their way to do something morally right or just and defend those who were defenseless, right? And in a lot of ways, I am defenseless. I certainly cannot respond to every personal attack that I get on the internet on a daily basis, right? I just can't. But at the same time, you have to realize that there's some fights that are not worth winning or not worth fighting, right? For example, here's a great example. There are YouTubers out there, much bigger than me, who name dropped me in a negative way all the time, all right? There's certain ones, and I'm not going to bring them up here, and I would hope that people don't bring them up in the comments or whatever, because you're just giving them the negative attention that they want, right? The reason they do it is because over the years of, 2011, 2012, 2013, when the this is how you don't play movement started, I became synonymous with, like, a bad gamer. Because people took the worst parts of my playthroughs and edited them into these funny montages that went viral. So everyone's, oh, Phil's the worst gamer on YouTube, right? So to them, it's funny to make a negative reference about me because they think they're cool, they're hip. They're the hip kid. Did you see the TV ad with Steve Buscemi? You know Steve Buscemi, from all the Quentin Tarantino movies and stuff like that. And he was on Boardwalk Empire. Superb actor. He's dressed up like a teenager. Where he's holding a skateboard and he has like a hat from the 1980s, a neon hat on. He's like, hey kids, I'm hip and I'm ready to, to be all in line with all the hip stuff. And everyone's looking at him like, yeah, right. That's what these YouTubers are doing. Basically, they're trying to prove that they're hip to the cool, fun trends of YouTube. And it's fun to say that Phil sucks, so I'll just throw in a nasty, insulting comment in one of my videos about Darkside Phil, and I'm hip to the kids, right? I'm really hip. When that happens, they're basically turning into Steve Buscemi from that fucking commercial. Because the bottom line is, that was funny fucking 2-3 years ago. It's so old and played out at this point. Most people who do those videos don't even get any attention anymore. No one cares. You know what I mean? But there's people who, they won't give it up. So, for example, if a big YouTuber says me in a negative light, insults me on a stream or whatever, number one, I don't care. And number two, me responding to it just gives them more attention. And I have better things to do than respond to every fucking idiot on the internet. So, I don't care. But there are people who will post it up on my forum. Phil, did you know that this YouTuber said this about you? Here's a thread about it. That's not productive. That's actually counterproductive. Because all you did was give that bad person more exposure, right? On my personal forums. And nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to address it. I'm not going to attack that person. I got games to play. I got videos to make. I got fun stuff to do. I'm not here to sit here and fucking address every nudnik on the fucking internet who's trying to get a rise out of me and get some kind of a hint of popularity from people on YouTube because they think it's in the know and it's fun and hip to make fun of Darkside Phil. If anything, if anyone who does that, it just proves how fucking outdated and fucking out of touch they are with what's actually going on, because that was years ago. Yeah, if this was 2-3 years ago when people were making these super popular, this is how you don't play videos getting millions of views, yeah, maybe then it made sense. Not now, 2016? What the fuck? There's so many other things you could say about me that are more pertinent than something like insulting how I'm a bad gamer or something. Like, you're an idiot. You're a fucking idiot and a hack. And those people are just so fucking pathetic because it just shows, oh, I need to try to really be in touch with the kitties so I don't lose $1 of revenue today. Get the fuck out of here. So that kind of white knighting isn't needed. You don't need to go attack that YouTuber. You don't need to post it on my forums. You don't need to go on Twitter. You know what I mean? Just daily stuff is the best way. Sharing my videos, telling someone when you see something that's good, right? And getting me a little bit more of attention on my business, that's the positive stuff you can do. And yeah, if you see stupid shit in comments, here's one thing though that I do want to say. One thing that most people don't do when they like my stuff is like it. And I mean that. You're watching a live stream, like it. You're watching a video that you really enjoy, like it. And I know it takes a little bit of extra effort to do it, and I've never gone out of my way in my YouTube career to like it, but the bottom line is there's a group of people out there who literally just watch my stuff to dislike it. And you'll see on certain gameplay videos and certain things, all of a sudden there's tons of dislikes. Where the fuck did these come from? Idiots. Idiots who are there only to be negative idiots, right? But the thing is, there's a lot more people who like my stuff than dislike it, but they don't click the like. So you don't see it because, I've never asked for that over the years. So if you really want to help me, don't attack these people. Don't go personal against them. Don't post shit on the forums about the negativity. Just go like my videos and be happy about watching them and share them with others. That's the positive way to really make this happen, because the bottom line is, that's what used to happen on YouTube. Back in the day, when I was at the height of my popularity, everyone was talking about Phil, buzzing about Phil. Did you see him play this game? Did you see this awesome moment in this game? Like this, share this. And everything was positive because it was all word of mouth positivity. And it's hard in this day and age to get that. So that's how you can help. If you really like my stuff, you want to help, don't go attack people, white knighting. Just like the videos, watch the videos, share the videos. There you go. All right. That is it for part 1 of Ask the King. I'll be back shortly with part 2 and 3 because I have a lot more questions. I know it's definitely going to be a long multiple-parter today. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it so far. When we come back, we'll get to the forum questions. I'll see you then. Don't go anywhere.